Joe Biden gets through his climate change, big spending nonsense, and then he gets to taxes. So how's he gonna pay for all this? The answer, of course, is that he's going to yell at the rich people again and pretend they don't pay their fair share of taxes. Now, let me explain to you. Rich people don't only pay their fair share of taxes, they pay literally everyone's taxes. 57% of households in the United States pay no income tax. That does not sound fair to me. I have been at nearly every income bracket in American public life, and I can tell you this. I pay way the hell more taxes now than I did 15 years ago when I was in a much lower income tax bracket.
So it's gonna get weirder from there, but I wanted to start with that because I like to occasionally check in on the populist right and find out of all their populism and how they're finally a voice for the silenced poor conservatives around the country. So what you saw there was a defense of the rich combined with how dare you poors not pay income tax. 57% of the country doesn't pay enough. They're getting away with murder from the point of view of their avatar of right-wing populism. Of course, it's nonsense because as they will conveniently forget when making points like that, income tax is not the only tax that people pay. And especially if you are poor, you are effectively paying everything with sales tax and the other taxes that you have to pay. You might not pay income tax because you literally don't pay enough money to qualify for it, but you are indeed paying. That said, as I said, it does get a little bit weirder. Let's jump to this next video.
Joe Biden proclaiming that people who are wealthy don't pay their fair share is sort of like proclaiming that the morbidly obese do not pay their fair share in terms of food. They really, really do. Okay, it turns out that the people who earn the most also pay the most in taxes, and they pay a disproportionate share in taxes. The percentage of money that the most wealthy in our society own compared to the amount of taxes that they pay. When you're talking about earned income, we're not talking about their assets that they already paid taxes on and then translate into real estate or stock or something. Wildly disproportionate. They pay more than they actually earn in terms of percentage taxes versus percentage of the income earned from the economy. But he's gonna keep proclaiming forever and always that the rich aren't paying their fair share, because if Joe Biden never told the truth about taxes, which is to pay for all of his garbage, you, like the normal middle class person, or you, the person at the bottom end of the spectrum, you're gonna have to increase your taxes. If he ever said that, everybody would immediately dismiss him.
I love the double think that's necessary for a poor conservative watching this. So at the end of that, he fear-mongered to you by saying, they're lying to you. Biden is gonna make you pay more in tax, so you shouldn't support him. 2 minutes prior, he was saying, you guys need to pay more in income tax. You're not paying enough, you're getting away with murder. So which is it? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? But I wanna focus briefly, Ben, on the idea that the rich aren't paying their fair share in taxes is like the morbidly obese not paying their fair share in food. Now, I don't know what that means because I'm an idiot, but I have heard that Ben Shapiro is an intellectual gladiator. He's the cool kid's philosopher. So there's definitely something to that. It's not stupid BS, it's got a deep meaning. What do you think he meant by that?
Yeah, I like it's really wild. Like it just seems like he wanted to like he's obviously trying to be clever, right? But just couldn't. Like he just wanted to bring some weird fat phobia into this for like no reason. Like he was like, because I get it, right? You're a right winger, that's what your audience loves, right? Your audience loves hating on people for really no reason. And so like, if you wanna convince people that rich people are not paying enough in tax or paying too much in taxes, then just insult some other random innocent bystander and then they'll go, ha ha ha. Because they're just like being bullies, because they're like fragile, weak, pathetic people that want to bully others so that they feel less weak and pathetic.
Yeah, 100%. And for the vast majority of people who are watching his show, I can't communicate directly with them, but those of you watching this, the system is set up where you pay taxes, which goes to paying for different stuff. And the reason you pay that is, in some sense, because you are benefiting from whatever it is that we get out of the fact that we have this government. So my job is that I come to the studio, I read and research the news or whatever, and then I discuss it. And in theory, the reason I can do that rather than being murdered by rampaging marauders is because we have a government and you have whatever, and the roads work, and there's electricity that gets regulated. Like I benefit. There is a system that is set up, supposedly that is stable. Sometimes it is California, usually it's on fire, that allows me to do my job. And because of that, when I do my job and I make income off of it, some of that goes to the government. But do you see the trick that he's playing there? That's the only area where the tax should be taken from, even though you are benefiting from this system. So a rich person who, again, is able to put their money into real estate and stocks or whatever, and is able to profit from that because of this system that makes that stuff stable and predictable and all that, should not have to pay extra taxes, according to him. Even though, again, philosophically, they're benefiting from the system. You that make your money off the sweat of your brow, or your intellectual output, or your creative output, or whatever it is, you should have to pay. But the absolute richest people who are objectively benefiting more from the system we have should not have to pay. Again, that is the message that we are getting from the populists on the right. The idea that the right accepts it is mind-boggling to me, but that is actually what he's saying there.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at the way money works, like if you just give me like indulge me for a second to explain, like taxes are what gives money value, right? Taxes are what gives money value, right? Like quite literally, it is how you generate demand for cash, right? And who does not have demand for cash? Who has too much cash on their hands that they're putting into other things? What is the value of cash measured against? Oh yeah, capital assets, things like factories, things like real estate, things like stocks and bonds. Okay, now who has a lot of demand for cash? Oh, poor people, right? So the reality is that there's not really any reason to tax people who are living below the cost of living, because their demand for cash is the maximum possible amount that it could be. Whereas with incredibly wealthy people, they actually devalue money by putting all of their cash assets into more long-term assets, these capital assets, right? Like factories and other things like that, right? Real estate, you name it. And that is what causes inflation. Quite literally, you could give everybody like the cost of living and literally not have any type of inflation, as long as you are taxing wealthy people enough to make sure that they are not just taking all of their money out of the cash economy and putting it into these capital assets. Like fundamentally, like it only gets to the point that's oversaturated when you reach total productivity. When every single person has a job and is working to their maximum capacity, that is when you would reach inflation with like covering everything. But the United States, our levels of productivity are so high that like we could all be working 20 hours a week and have a government guaranteed cost of living and not have any inflation, as long as millionaires and billionaires are paying their taxes. But they would rather you all be poor so that they can have power over you. They don't even necessarily care about being rich. They just care about being richer than poor people. Like, you know, it's really more about a power relationship than it is even about the money in and of itself.
Okay, I only understood a few of those words. You're coming off a little bit like an intellectual gladiator there. But I'm gonna assume, because you sound smarter than me, that you know what you're talking about. No, exactly. And look, this is why we have to have shows that can provide a counter to the purposeful bamboozling of the poor and working class that you get from the right. They're gonna have their Ben Shapiro's and their Steven Crowder's and their Matt Walsh's or whatever that try to trick them into like loving their subservience to the rich, or at the very least distract them with nonsense, crusades against trans folk and Muslims and all that. Like there needs to be a counter to that, which is why we have people like Rye himself saying Ben needs her own TYT show again, and perhaps, hopefully, keep sending you messages. You never know.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.